All right, now we're joined by Andre Helmstetter, who's running for School Board District 5. So go ahead with a 2-minute introduction.
So my name is Andre Helmstetter, and I have lived in District 5 for about 18 years. I currently work as a lean process improvement consultant for a firm called Matizia Consultants here in Seattle. I have 3 children who are at various stages in school. I have a 17-year-old who's in Running Start and primarily going to Central, and is officially enrolled in Garfield and went to Garfield for her first 2 years. And I have a 4-year-old who is about to start kindergarten in Bailey Gatzer. And then I do have a middle schooler who is at Seattle Girls School. Both my older daughters did their elementary school at either TT Minor or Leschi. They moved. My oldest daughter moved when the TT Minor closed, and she moved with the Montessori program to Leschi. What else do I want to say? Why am I here?
Why are you here?
So I'm a firm believer in public service, and really as public service. I felt like when I was 10 years old, I knew that I was going to join, the military, and I promptly joined the Navy right after I got out of high school. Usually in places where I live, I look for opportunities to either participate with local community groups, community councils, school groups, whatever I can. I've been very active in my children's education and in schools. I have volunteered time as a mentor at the King County Youth Detention Facility, where I got to spend some really great time with some actually really great kids and see some really sad stories. And I have, coached chess for kindergartners at Leschi, and so I really, is that
That's the time.
introduction? Okay.
Great, so now we have our 4 prepared questions. They're actually right in front of you if you want to turn that over, and you can read along as we read them aloud. And Liz, will you do number 1? These are 2-minute answers.
I will do number 1. What specific actions can the school board take to help assure equal education opportunities and help to close the achievement equal opportunity gap? How do you see stopping the suspension, expulsion, prison pipeline that is affecting so many kids?
That's a good question. So for the first part, I think that really what we need to be doing is we need to be going into the schools and seeing what's happening and getting better evaluations of what's happening. And I'll give a quick example. I did a tour of Bailey Gatzer, where my son is going to go, and I had read the district report, and the district report told me that it was a failing school. And I got into the building, and what I found out is that they're creating great educational environments and opportunities for all the kids that are there. And they, unfortunately, or not unfortunately for the kids, a lot of the kids that come in there are already 18 to 24 months behind. And so to try to evaluate those children and then based on their test scores, figure out how to close the gap, it's kind of a misuse of data. You really need to go in and see where they are, how they're starting off, what their environments look like outside of school, and then you can really kind of tailor learning experiences to them. And actually I think the best way we can help the kids is create really great learning environments in the school where the kids feel responsible for their learning, where they feel engaged, where they're not over-disciplined. I've seen over-discipline happen especially to low-income and minority kids, and that makes them feel like they're not a part of the school community. So anything that we can do to help engage the children and make them feel like they're a part of the community instead of a problem in the community really helps. But when I see classes where students are working in groups together, where students are asking questions, where they're helping to lead the lessons, where it's really interactive, where they're doing project-based work, so that they can bring to bear all of the different things that they're learning in their education. I think that's really powerful because that's when the children want to own it and when the children feel like they're participating. So I think that's a great way. And I actually think that addresses both of these.
Great. Ben, number 2.
How do you view the role of a school board member in terms of district governance Do you believe it is the role of a school board member to advocate on behalf of the public with administrative staff?
Yes, I do think that it is important for the school board members to be advocating for the public with the administrative staff. I mean, the administrative staff is made up of the public as well. They have kids in school, they work in, they work in the administration, but really what we're ultimately looking for is great outcomes for our kids at the schools. And if the administration is not running in such a way that they're paying attention to what the parents are asking for and really what the students are needing and what the teachers are asking for, then I do think that it's important for the school board to be vocal in trying to identify opportunities for change to improve that situation. I don't think that overtly complex and top-heavy administration is good. I would rather see a lot more resources out actually in the schools where the service of teaching, where learning is happening, is going on. So yes, I absolutely. I don't think I have to use all my time on this one because I absolutely think the school board should be listening to the public, and they should be listening to the schools, and they should be bringing that information back to the administration.
Great. Elizabeth, number 3.
What are your priorities and how do you propose SPS finds the necessary funds to address the classroom infrastructure needs of the district? Please specifically address the needs of Seattle's growing north downtown population for an elementary school as well as other neighborhoods in Seattle.
So it's interesting. This question's interesting. In 2008, I was fighting for keeping TT Minor open and fighting school closures, and a group of parents from across the district had put together some really good documentation with statistics about the growth of the area and things like that. So I think that it's interesting that now we're having these issues with population. But let's see here, the priorities. So the first thing, thinking about the budget and the finances that we have now, what I do professionally is lean process improvement. And whenever I go into one of my clients, they always say, they start off, they lead with need. Like, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. And my response is usually, okay, that's good to hear, but first maybe we should stop and look at what can we do right now with the authority that we have right now, with the resources that we have right now. Because there's a good chance that there are some places where we can increase our effectiveness in delivery of the services that we're trying to deliver by removing waste, unnecessary overhead, and different parts of the current system. Unfortunately, systems kind of grow organically, and systems that grow organically often end up wasteful. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It doesn't mean go in and fire everybody. It means simply find the places where people are doing work that they don't need to be doing, and then remove that so that they can do work that they need to be doing. So that's the first step. And then after we've done that and we've gotten to a point where we're happy with the service that we're delivering based on what we have, then we can move forward and ask questions. We can say, oh, well, we think we need this, and then we can try things and run tests to see whether or not they're actually valuable for the system.
Great. Sophia, number 4.
I started already hinting at this. What do you think the district's testing policy should be?
So, testing. I think that the district should really be looking away from this idea of large-scale standardized testing, but that doesn't mean that I don't believe that evaluation is important. Collecting a whole bunch of data on a really diverse group of children with a standardized test, and then actually thinking statistically that you're going to come up with information that's useful. You know, when all those kids are coming from different places in the morning, they're going home to different places, they may be at different levels, you know, in reality, that, and they may have come in, like I was talking about before, they may have come in way behind. So we don't really understand what's going on with the kids. And the people who really do understand what's going on with the kids are the teachers who are in the classroom. So if, on the other hand, we're doing that kind of testing so that we can punish teachers for not doing a good job, or we can take funds away from the schools, well then, once again, data is fine, facts are better. Data that's used improperly is the worst thing that can happen, and it happens really, really often. And just an example of the types of evaluations that I'm talking about are, you know, I'm a big fan of Montessori, and I'm using this example just because it's a good example here. And the way the room is set up, the different levels of teaching materials are available to the students, and the students can work at their levels. Well, with my students who've been in Montessori programs, their teachers have always known exactly where they're working. And so it's really easy to find out where your kids are if you just go in and ask. And I think we can do a lot more going in and asking and trusting our teachers to help us evaluate where our students are, and using that information to improve, to better provide services for the children in the classrooms.
Great, so now we'll open up to follow-up questions. These are 1-minute answers, and we'll start with Robert.
What is your position on charter schools, and if you got elected, would you maintain the district's current policy of not authorizing new charter schools in the district?
I absolutely disagree with the idea of charter schools. We'll just start off real quick, and I'll run through the reasons. There's not the oversight that you need, and if you said, okay, well then we'll create oversight, well then you're just creating another layer of administration, and we already have systems for that. There's nothing that you can do with a charter school that you can't do with a public school. People say, oh, well, we're not allowed to do this, or the unions, or whatever. Really, what humans are really capable of doing on their best days is negotiating and finding consensus. And what we need to do is negotiate and find consensus and have great programs for the kids. Then the big thing in the room for me is that charter schools have a different bottom line than public services. The public service, I'll use these business terms, the investor in public services is the taxpayer. And the outcome, the return on their investment that they're looking for in this case, is great education for their kids, safe places to be, the whole thing. A business, what they're looking for is a financial bottom line. And at some point, you're gonna have to start shaving services so that you can increase your quarter-over-quarter revenue. And it's just a bad road to go down.
All right, additional questions? David?
There's a tremendous racial disparity in Seattle Public Schools between people of color and people who get into advanced placement programs. Say it's a form of rationing. But there's also a lot of research that indicates that there's a tremendous population of high IQ children who get missed by these programs for various reasons. And a lot of indication that the time to capture these young people is at the elementary school area, that there's this nexus in about 4th or 5th grade. And I'm sorry, that's not a long lead up to a question, but what would be your strategy to identify and support the high IQ children and get placed, the high IQ children that we're missing in our advanced placement programs?
Well, I think it starts with what we talked about before, with how we evaluate the children, and also the kind of community that we're creating in schools. The reality is if families don't feel welcome in schools, then families aren't going to participate, and those families are not going to be taking the initiative to go out and get their kids tested, you know, with the tests that they have, or put them in programs. When I was trying to help move the Montessori program from TT Minor to Leschi, one of the things that we were doing was huge outreach to the population at the school, and that was a lot of minority families. And what they were telling me was, they were saying, Montessori is not for black people, it's for white people, there's not enough discipline in the class, and in the classes, and a lot of this stuff is the institutionalized racism that we've received as we grew up. So we believe these things to be true until we learn something different. And the transition by the district wasn't done very well, so there was a lot of mistrust in the school. So those families weren't enrolling those kids in those programs, and the families weren't participating. So the programs changed over time.
Great. Robert, no?
Just give you another minute to follow up, and it sounds like you're going somewhere in the time picture, so I'll give you another minute.
Yes, awesome. Thank you for the minute. Thank you. Let me just figure out where I was again. This is so scary. I'm a very active parent and I hunt down all the resources that are available to get what my child needs, right? And regardless of the truth of institutional racism, like I know this is all true, but my question to me is, okay, well, what are you gonna do? Well, I'm gonna go out and get all the information that I can. Well, that's not as easy when you have a family that doesn't have the same education or comfort with interacting with these systems that I have. And so I think one of the things that we can do is, one, we can be looking to evaluate the children in school and having teachers make recommendations for children. Two, we can be utilizing the resources that we have to try to make the access to the advanced programs way more welcoming and way easier to go through the process of. It shouldn't be, I'm 3 or 4 years into school, and because I just don't have the knowledge, I'm finding out that this was an opportunity for me, and you know, or I'm finding out that, hey, actually there's a really nice person in there who wants you to come in and try this. So I think there's some actually pretty simple stuff that we can do to try to improve this.
Additional questions? John?
I think a week ago there was no one running for the seat.
Yeah.
And maybe midweek there was one announcement, and then yesterday there were 5 more.
Yeah.
Can you help us to distinguish yourself between some of the different candidates, particularly in this race where a lot of folks are newly into the race or not as well known maybe?
Yeah, I'll try to. I entered the race late. I actually got a call not that long ago from a very good colleague of mine who I've worked with doing school stuff, and they said, I think you should run. And so I said, well, let's talk about it. I don't want to come into this late and have a lame campaign. So they said, well, we're going to get some people together. We're going to make this happen. I said, okay, let's do that. And I think what differentiates me, because I don't know very much about these people, they could be awesome, right? I hope they're awesome. But I think what differentiates me is that I've got a long experience in a very diverse set of circumstances. I was born right after, the equal rights legislation was passed in 1964 in Watts to a white mother and a black father, and I dropped out of high school. Teachers used to buy me clothes to keep me in school. I had a teacher help me graduate from high school with my class after dropping out in my sophomore year, by making sure I got the extra courses and stuff that I needed. So I just think that, and I have kids in school. I've had to navigate this system. Oh, and on top of that, this lean process improvement and that type of consulting is what I do, and I think that the district can really benefit from some of this.
Okay. Time for another question or two. Additional questions?
I'm rolling now.
You're really rolling.
Well, if you're rolling, I'll add one more. So there's this push from a lot of private vendors pushing education technology in the classroom, and some want to go really far and say, well, we don't really need teachers, we'll just have a facilitator in a room of 50 kids and put them all on iPads. And there may be some role for technology, but maybe that goes too far. What is your view on the appropriate role of education technology in a classroom?
I think where education technology supports learning, and in particular supports the social interaction between the kids, is good. And I don't mean kids typing at a keyboard and talking to each other across the room, because as some of us have learned, that actually makes bad behavior happen. Like, we forget how to interact with human beings. I think socialization is part of what we do in schools, and that's part of the learning that happens. I am a technologist. I've worked in software development. The tools are great, but they're just tools. It's the application that's important. And if I had a choice between students who were working collaboratively on projects with no technology and students who were sitting down at computers all day, not interacting with humans, I would get rid of the technology. And I love technology, so that's a big thing for me to say. So yeah, that's how I feel.
All right, we are about at a time. If you want to take 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Oh, well, I really appreciate you guys having me here. You guys have been smiling. That's great. That makes a person feel really welcome. I hope you all vote for me if you can. If you can't, then I hope you tell your friends to vote for me. And if I do get into office, I really hope that I can serve the city of Seattle and our schools. I can't see any reason we live in a beautiful place full of smart people and have one of the better economies in the country. We should be the example for how to make these things work. And I believe that we can get there, and I just think that we have to be patient, and we have to really not lie about what's actually going on, start surfacing reality, and then making incremental improvements as we can.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.